Hey there, back in 2013, Steam Pipe released. An updated reorganized Steam files and how source games were stored. For the average Steam user, nothing changed. However, it was with this update that all source mods broke. These days, most mods have been patched to work again. However, even to this day, many mods remain broken. Mission Improbable is one of them, which is also the mod that is the reason this channel exists today. Thankfully, there are ways to get it working, and I'll show you how to later in the video. For now, I'll be summarizing, analyzing and reviewing Mission Improbable and show you all the things that make this mod great. Let's get right into it. Before we do that, subscribe and join the Discord. When this video releases, the voting for the winner of the latest art competition has started, so come and vote. Thanks. Mission Improbable starts off with a beautiful boat ride. You will immediately notice the unique aesthetic of this mod, which it achieves through the use of tons of custom textures, models and sounds. You play as Gordon Freeman, which kind of throws all discussions on this mod's possible canonicity out of the window, unless you are to assume the G-Man randomly placed Gordon here. Though the ending will not fit into this theory. Walking along the cliffs makes for one of the most beautiful scenes I have ever seen in a Half-Life mod by a mile. I have yet to see a mod even challenge the beauty that is this mod. The beginning bit is cleverly designed with some headcrab fights, and immediately afterwards we get some great level design. To get a bit more analytical with it, as I think I can confidently do with my 10 years of level design experience, here's why this house works. So one of the most important concepts in level design is to make sure the player knows what they're doing. You have to guide them. As much as you may want to say that you hate handholding, you actually don't. What you may hate is games constantly giving you HUD icons on where exactly you need to go and what exactly you need to do. Perhaps even pausing the game if you're about to lose or whatever. But in reality, good level design requires handholding. It's advised to do it more subtly though. Using HUD icons and markers is the lazy way out. You want to make sure the player can focus on having fun and knows what to do and also what's to come. Here we pass the first building and see a zombie knocking on the window. Thus we are now aware that zombies will be encountered here. Entering the building we fight against two of them, with another one coming around the corner. It is then that we get plunged into mildly cold water. As we get to see the horrors lurking in the basement, the floor breaks and we find ourselves right in it. As we leave this building to a beautiful view of the ocean and the lighthouse, a few more zombies approach, which you can avoid actually. Now we enter what I believe to be the best piece of level design in this mod. As we enter, we get a beautiful view of water flowing down to the basement. A complex sight to achieve in the source engine. We are now aware that the basement is flooded. Furthermore, we immediately see and hear electricity on the stairs. You may put two and two together and conclude that the basement being flooded is what's causing the electricity on the stairs, and that going down to fix it will be dangerous but also necessary to progress. The fact that the stairs lead up is another subconscious indicator that it's the right way to go and that we need to clear that path. Going upwards signals safety and progression. Psychologically, upward movement often represents advancement and escaping from danger, as truly is the case here. Since before you can delve deeper into that thought, a few more zombies approach. One of them is cleverly placed behind a few hanging kitchen utensils, which shows the cool physics directions Half-Life 2 is capable of, which by today are a standard. But even at the point this mod was released in 2009 to 2012, the physics were remarkable, and you can comfortably argue that Half-Life 2's physics still hold up to this day. Look at Gary's mod's daily 30k players. Going down to the basement and navigating the electricity using a crate, we see a fast zombie torso getting shocked in the water, further signalizing the dangers of touching it. We reach the room we saw from above and disable electricity. The way back is shorter and only accessible thanks to the electricity being disabled, which is always a good idea when designing a puzzle. Backtracking isn't fun, unless it's specifically designed to be fun. This is my main criticism of Underhill, an absolutely phenomenal mod that I mention in every video. And here's my video on it if you want to watch it. That mod suffered a lot from backtracking and running back and forth, which made up about a third of the mod's playtime at least. The quality of the backtracking varying greatly. So Mission Improbable showcases a good way of cutting short on backtracking. Also, you may notice that the fast zombie torso is gone. Turns out it's still alive. A great interaction once more. Foreshadowing, getting you to think about it by making sure you go right past it, and then a fight, even if it's a quick one. We are now able to access the upper floor. We encounter some zombies and also hear a radio. It's Outpost 16 reaching out to Station 21, the station we are seemingly at. They say that if anyone is reading, we are to activate the listening post as soon as possible. Opening the door, we are rewarded with some eye candy in form of the door being destroyed. Since it's always fun to see destruction. And just before you get to wonder what the radio meant by listening station, it gets placed right in front of your eyes. This is another great way to guide the player without directly doing so. The bridge to get to the tower collapses behind us. What was I writing my script here? To which? Okay, I get it. Alright, it's all good. The bridge to get to the tower collapses behind us, to which we arrive at this beautiful base of the lighthouse, which... damn. The brushwork that went into creating these little arches does not go unnoticed. Climbing up the tower and enabling the station, we hear someone know that there's a ton of combat activity approaching and that we need to get out. Though at this point it's already too late. The tower gets destroyed by a gunship in a cool scene. A fight ensues and the way back obviously proves a challenge with the bridge destroyed. Thankfully, there's the item elevator, on the way to which we also acquire the crossbow. This section is also a very clever use of man hacks, which are usually just annoying, but actually make sense in this case, given that they are one of the few enemies that are able to reach us here. The item elevator provides all necessary cover by having a small crate placed on it, which we use to carefully avoid the incoming enemies, which to specify the importance of this crate, by creating a game you want to avoid unavoidable damage at all costs. This is why, in combat situations, you need to include cover. In this case it's indestructible, and might even seem OP, but as we are slowly moving towards the enemies which only appear after we start the ride, we move towards unavoidable damage if we are to just cower and hide. This way a perfect amount of pressure gets put on the player to keep on fighting. The gunship just flew away, by the way. I assume this was because the command assumed we would be taken down by the soldiers, the gunship being overkill. They are of course wrong, and were we not, we'll see it again soon. On the way back we fight through familiar environments, which is rewarding to players, especially those who explored the environment thoroughly. And yes, this is backtracking. However, added combat soldiers are used to make this backtracking more fun. You will then find a new path that actually has been there the entire time, but only through backtracking do you really notice it. Now to note, before, this path was inaccessible, which is the right thing to do. It's explained in lore though that the combine that arrived placed a bridge there, which makes sense given that a dropship was seen landing over there earlier. If you've ever watched a Half-Life analysis of any kind, you'll hear them mention the run, think, shoot, live principle that Half-Life lives off of.
Run, think, shoot, live.
Run, think, shoot, live.
It has been talked about so much that I try to avoid the obvious ones, specifically run, think and shoot, since those are self-explaining. The live part though is the one that I think is hardest to pinpoint. I think this mod and its intro are a great example though. We have this area that really only consists of a few houses, a lighthouse, and is all placed on these two cliffs that would usually be rather inconvenient for any type of construction. I mean seriously, this shit will be collapsing in 5 years max, but in terms of level design and telling a story, this is the way to go. Or at least one way to go. Every single corner of this place and every interaction was carefully designed to include as much life as possible. The things that happen make sense. Things are interacting with one another, and it's all in this perfectly designed place. The broken pieces of wall with visible corrosion. The support beams on the sides of buildings that you would have never consciously thought about if it wasn't for me mentioning them right now. And now the connection of the dropship we saw earlier and the bridge that is repaired later. You feel like you aren't just playing a game, you are living in a world. Which is what I think makes up a huge part of the live in Run, Think, Shoot, Live. Speaking of that principle, we now enter a run section that is literally called upon by a song we hear as the gunship approaches once more. There's a rocket launcher placed here that is actually rather visible. Any experienced Half-Life player will immediately know what this means. That gunship is going down. The run section is rather short-lived as we find an item crate with a few chosen items placed right next to it, rockets. This tells us that item crates mean rockets, which there are a ton placed around this beach. After taking it down, we find a car. And unlike many Source mods that have a 20-second driving section that feels rather forced, you actually get to keep your car for a bit longer here. You first drive into a tunneling and stopped after 20 seconds. And don't worry, you'll be back driving around soon. The goal is clear. You have to get these combine doors open. In general, this place is beautifully designed and features some cool regular puzzle sections you'd expect to find in a mod. What I thought was specifically well done was the inclusion of lots of dead bodies alongside antlion eggs. Some slight rumbling was also added. So you are now aware that this section will feature antlions. Which it does, but nothing else is really noteworthy here. It's well designed and definitely really beautiful though. We move on to one of the most beautiful environments I have ever seen in Half-Life modding. I'm not even sure why it is exactly. Oh, actually I am. A rainbow in Half-Life. I'm kind of sure that this map won't be that beautiful in most people's eyes. When I objectively look at it, it's muddy. It's washed out colors for the most part aside from the rainbow. Which, this definitely fits the environment it tries to portray. And this also hits the exact spot for me, and is one of the most memorable environments in any Half-Life mod ever. For me at least. Let me know your thoughts though. This next fight is also pretty cool. It revolves around a gas station that you have to blow up. And you blow it up in a pretty cool destruction scene. These are pretty hard to make, and especially to port it to Source. And this time it's not even just for funsies. Even if that would also be totally fine. But in this case, it's actually for us to progress. We leave our car behind in the process. What then follows is the most legendary moment of this mod. The moment that I credit with getting me into my fascination for mods in the first place. Seriously, it might just be that without this moment right here, this channel would not exist. We enter this garage with a headcrab launcher. Beautiful environment, but outside of that, you can actually control the canisters. And as you move it around using the machinery, the canister opens, and you suddenly get a prompt appearing on your HUD. What a grandiose way to expand upon a concept. Even if the scene has approximately a 0% chance of survival IRL, I'm more than willing to completely brush that aside in the name of awesomeness. The canister theme continues as more land around the area, spreading headcrabs. You are likely to spend only a little amount of time in this area, but it looks damn great as well. I like to stand still for a moment and take in the environment, which I wish this mod would have forced the player to do a bit more, specifically in this scene. Generally, it's advised to make use of your great looking environments. There is of course no diminishing of player quality if you don't, just more work on your part, which nobody but you, the creator, may have problems with, of course. I just really love this environment and I'm sad that most likely not many people took the time to appreciate it. Here's another funny moment that I loved. I think the dark and gritty atmosphere of Half-Life doesn't allow for silly things like these that often. But man do I love it when mods pull it off correctly. We now arrive at a rebel base. From all we can assume, these are the people that contacted us when we were in the Lighthouse. If you're still trying to fit this mod into the Half-Life timeline, the rebels here recognize Freeman. This means it very most likely takes place after the uprising, perhaps between Half-Life 2 and Episode 1. I really wish the protagonist was just somebody else. Would have been way easier to somehow fit into the timeline then. It's here that we find Dr. Kell. You know, the guy from Half-Life 1. It's not him. Damn, it's a missed opportunity. Well, anyways, as he drifts around the outpost, he tells us about plans to relocate the base. He tells us about a nearby Combine train depot that we need to infiltrate in order to distract the Combine from them. He also adds that he would love to join us, but the thing that's stopping him is that a ladder is on the way that leads to it. His mortal enemy. By the way, this is great and clever character design, not only because this is just a unique character, but also because making him quadriplegic saved the developer the effort of animating all the mouth movements, which is notoriously hard to do in the Source engine. It also allowed to just use a robot voice instead of a real voice actor, which this was 10 years before modern AI voices. I see no issue with an indie mod developer doing this back then. Should I be worried?
Stop being such a negative Nancy.
We moved through some great looking environments. This dirty underground theme is one where the mod definitely shines. You may notice that the entire POV of the player looks dusty, and the darkest black on the screen is still kinda grainy brown yellowish. Excuse my broad defining of colors, I'm literally colorblind. Well, I want to tell you how this effect was achieved in Source. All Source games feature the color correction entity, though it's at least somewhat complex to use. As a Source mapper with decade-long experience, the most I've ever done with color correction entities was copy them over from a map which colors I liked and paste them over to my own. In the case of Mission Improbable, a very simple method was used to achieve this color altering effect. A fog entity. It used it in a very clever way. That is that the fog start distance is actually a negative number. Thus, the fade into fog starts behind the player and ends wherever the mapper deems fit. This causes a bit of fog to be overlaid on the player's view, making for a simple color correction effect, even if this is of course a lot more limited than conventional color correction. This is a trickery that goes on in Source mods. Mission Improbable also used regular color correction, just to be clear. There are more crossbow snipe opportunities in this beautiful environment surrounding the bridge and a hunter mini-boss fight. We then enter the Combine facility. A perhaps unpopular opinion of mine is that I don't enjoy Combine aesthetics. I think they're objectively well designed, and I see the possible appeal. They're just not for me necessarily. I do enjoy the ones in Mission Improbable though, and let me tell you why. One prime example would be this room right here. Combine architecture overtaken by nature. This has to be one of the most underused concepts ever. This mod is over 10 years old, and to this day, this is still the only mod I've ever seen that uses this concept. There's also some creative architecture in form of the train tunnel and this room with some slanted pillars here. There is also a very specific puzzle that is very unique to this mod that I won't spoil the solution of. I can tell you though that I remember being very frustrated with it back when I first played this mod, even though it's surprisingly easy. Here's another example. This gigantic half nature, half Combine room looks insanely good. This is also the one you cause chaos in by firing off headcrab canisters that are loaded on a train right into the ceiling. It also features a boss fight of sorts, one that I enjoyed quite a lot. So yeah, overall, the rather short Combine setting featured some cool environments, which it mostly managed by remixing the theme a bit, mostly by using nature, some cool fights and some nice puzzles. All you want from a run, think, shoot, live shooter. Nah, I'm definitely not saying that again. Also, pigeon. We then arrive at the very final boss fight of this mod, which takes place in a small dock. It uses a mechanic that goes quite underused in Half-Life, that is taking down a hunter chopper using the RPG, which most of you probably know is possible but I've never done outside of Gmod. And no, the one from Lost Coast only half counts, as that is a reskinned gunship, which is a nice fun fact by the way. Trying to get more rockets, you find the crate to be filled with cans instead of rockets. Things are looking slim, but just as the chopper is about to fire, the Dr. Keller impersonator arrives and proceeds to take down the chopper with a fucking rocket launcher attached to his wheelchair, which was actually hinted at previously. Damn, he wasn't kidding when he said that the ladder was the only reason he can come with. He then tells us that he, traveling alongside the people of the outpost, randomly heard us fighting and checked to see if we're doing alright. and that we can come travel alongside him and his group. Once we head back though, we find that the entire outpost crew has been taken out, seemingly by the Hunter Chopper, to which Dr. Keller adds,
"Oh shoot."
The credits play to this very unfortunate ending, the credits being really cool. I don't need to describe it much, I think, as you can probably see for yourselves. I love when mods do something unique for the credits. It gets people to actually look at the names. I also love how this mod doesn't have a happy ending. One of the very few I can think of that do this. In terms of canonicity, even though the beginning looks like you're fulfilling a contract of G-Men, I can't really think of any way to fit this mod into Half-Life's universe, given that the player is supposed to be Gordon Freeman. Especially with the open ending of the mod that shows Freeman escaping with the wheelchair guy. The mod's creator was online for a total amount of 2 hours on ModDB and was last online 8 years ago. It was also the last release of his ever. You can find more mods of his on his website. Included are maps for Duke 3D, Day of Defeat, Portal, TF2, and also stuff for Ghost Recon that he had working on. One of his Day of Defeat maps actually ended up being included in an official update for the game. It's known under the name Palermo. That's definitely something to be proud of. Oh, by the way to fix this mod is to download the patch and to follow its instructions. Yes, like clickbait, I'm sorry. So overall, mission Improbable? Good. That was all basically, just a look at a fun mod that is the reason this channel exists. Hope you guys had fun and perhaps even learned something. Perhaps it also inspired you to get into playing and creating Half-Life mods as it did with me. Consider subscribing and becoming a channel member. Otherwise, thank you for watching.